golf courses during the summertime, whether it was just cleaning up the golf course, going in the lake for balls, or just assisting around the clubhouse, cleaning up the clubhouse, or washing clubs and doing stuff. So summertime was a glorious time for junior golfers because we all had summer employment right at the golf course and was able to play golf free.
And at that age, you wanted to be a golfer. You already made up your mind.
I knew when I was 10 years old, I made a commitment that I was going to be a golf pro. I still have the picture. I had played in my first golf tournament. I remember it very vividly because it was the Independence Golf Tournament. It was 1973. And we had our first junior golf championship in 1973 at the Blue Hills Golf Course. And they also had the first Bahamas professional golf championship at Paradise Island. And we had Lee Elder, who was at that time the Tiger Woods of his time, came down and brought a number of pros down. And I remember I finished second to the last in the golf tournament. There's probably about 20 junior golfers, and I finished second to the last. And it's not because of my skill level, it's because I didn't know any rules or any of the regulations. I just knew how to hit the golf ball, but I had never participated in a golf tournament before, so I got a lot of penalties.
Okay.
But fortunately, what happened is at the presentation, myself and Roy Bosa and Paul Bow he finished last, I finished second last, but we got our picture in the newspaper that morning with the presentation, and I think it had something to do with that being Roy Bo's son was involved in it, so I was fortunate to be a part of that. And when the presentation was made by Lee Elder and Roy Bo, someone I truly admired, presented me with the trophy, and I was standing there, and I made up my mind right there and then that I wanted to be a golf pro, and that's all I wanted to be. And I committed myself totally from that day to this day to just stick with golf, and that's all it's ever been in my world was golf. Has been golf.
So after the junior years locally with golf, you moved on?
Yeah. Well, what I want to say, and this is for the junior golfers that may be listening now, in 1973, I finished second to the last. In 1976, I won the biggest golf tournament, men's golf tournament, at age 13. The Eastern Open was the biggest tournament at that time, and I finished tied for first with Freddie Higgs, shot a 77 at Paradise Island Golf Course. So I made a total commitment after that tournament in 73 that I was going to learn how to play this game. And so I went to Paradise Island, and I did any job I could do to just be on the golf course. And I used to be on the golf course summertime from before sunrise in the morning until sunset every day. And when I won, I have the newspaper clipping and everything to show that. So when these guys talk, well, yeah, I used to help him when he was a little boy and stuff. And I have the newspaper where I beat all the Jim Duncombe's and all these guys in 1976. I became a very competitive amateur golfer, even though I was still a junior golfer. But there was tons of super junior golfers.
And after, did you participate? There was a Steel Pockets and Herman Cup.
The Herman Cup was the main event in the Caribbean, and that was something that we all strive for every year. Unlike now, you know, the guys prepare for it maybe 2-3 months before the tournament. At that time, we had to use the whole year to prepare because it was that competitive to make the team. And when we think of Herman Cup, there's one name that comes to mind, and that's of an English gentleman who's Bahamian by the name of Mike Taylor. He's a CPA accountant here in the Bahamas, still around, and hasn't been given the recognition that he deserves. And hopefully y'all can get him on this show one day. But he was by far the most competitive amateur golfer we ever had in this country. You couldn't make the Herman Cup team unless you get by Mike Taylor. And he kind of set the standard because he would practice, even though he had his business and everything. Every day he was on that golf course. Every year, if there was one person on the Herman Cup team, it was Mike Taylor. We had a lot of young golfers coming along at that time. You had Robin Nichols, you had Vernon Lockhart, you had Eric Gibson Jr., you had Greg Maycock and Phil Maycock in Freeport. You had Dwayne Sayers, and you had Kenny Lockhart. We just had a ton of very good golfers. And at any given day, during the mid-'70s, the junior golfers were as good as the professional golfers.
All right.
We were that competitive.
So after '76, did you move on to the States or the college?
No, I played golf here. I never forget, in 1980, I was ready to go off to the States to play golf. And I told Sanford Sawyer, I said, you know, I'm getting up out of here. I'm going to the States. I'm going to play golf. And I never forget Mr. Sawyer saying to me, he asked me first, he said, Pratt, have you ever won the national championship? And I said to him, I said, no, sir, I never won the national championship, but I could beat all these guys. He said, how are you going to leave the Bahamas and go try to be number one in somebody else's country when you haven't proved you could be number one in your country yet? So, and that made a lot of sense to me. And so at that time, I was an age where I was going to the nightclubs, and, you know, I was into the girls and all that stuff, so I wasn't as committed as I was early on. So I made a full commitment to go to bed by 10 o'clock every night, and that I wasn't going to leave the Bahamas to go play golf anywhere until I won the Bahamas National Championship. So in 1982, I basically dominated golf in the Bahamas and won the National Championship in '82, in August of '82. And in November of '82, I went off and started playing professional golf in the United States, in Orlando, Florida, at the J.C. Goosey Golf Tour, which was in Orlando.
Okay, tell us about that experience as you emerged as a...
It was a very humbling experience because, you know, when I left here, I didn't know nothing but credit cards and renting a car, and you know, I still had this Bahamian small island mentality that you can catch a taxi anywhere you want to go. And I'll never forget my first golf tournament was at a golf course, Cypress Creek in Orlando, Florida. And the next tournament was in Titusville, Florida. And I got up that morning and caught a cab to go to Titusville, because I'm thinking, ain't no golf course could be that far. And I'm in this cab, you know, I haven't much money. And the cab is driving, and the clock just, you know, the meter just kept ticking and ticking. It was up to like about $71. You know, and I'm counting my money as I'm going. I'm saying, thanks. I said, are we almost there yet? And he said, no, we got still a little ways to go. So by the time we got to the golf course, I was out of money. And I was the type of guy that didn't mess with no one. You know, I kind of stayed to myself. But I made up my mind when I got to the golf course that I was going to have to make some friends right away in order to get back to Orlando to my hotel. So that wasn't a good experience. I didn't do too well there because the managing part of my career was totally unorganized, you know.
And you were solo at the time?
Yeah, I was solo. Everything I did, I basically kind of sponsored myself. You know, I was one that just struggled through everything. And so I had to kind of readjust and came back home to kind of look at it differently and organize myself a little bit better to take it on again. And so in 1984, I'll never forget, I left here with probably about $400 in my pocket to take it on again. I started out in Miami, Florida, and I never forget, the hotel room I had was like $18 a day, and the bathroom, the kitchen, everything was in one. I bought a bicycle and used to ride I was on Biscayne Boulevard, go from one golf course to the next golf course, just kind of hustling golf and moving on. And I would just, after making enough money, just get to the airport and catch a plane to any city. And I ended up going to Detroit, Michigan, because I'd read that there was a lot of hustlers and a lot of gambling in Detroit, Michigan. And so I went to Detroit, Michigan, because I felt I can, you know, because one of the things that I learned very early on, having come from the Bahamas and having all the privileges of being able to work as an assistant pro and doing all that I had accomplished here in the Bahamas, that dream I had of going to the United States and being a superstar golfer, I didn't